So this panel, okay, it's about teaching young people not just to fish, but also how to navigate the ever-changing waters of today's job market. And so, while with this particular session, we will explore how internships, mentorships, and skill-based training can become game changers for the workforce of tomorrow. From creating structured pathways to fostering industry academia, the collaboration, our panelists will dive into solutions that not only educate, but also empower. And so I would love to introduce this incredible panel, the leaders that are going to be driving this discussion. May I please call upon stage Mr. Santosh Abraham, Principal and Lead for Government Engagement at Sattvaa Consulting. He will be moderating this session. With years of experience in the strategic collaboration and public policy, I promise you he's going to be the perfect guide for this conversation. Welcome. There we go. Next, may I please call Ms. Neha Raghav, Director at WWF, whose work at the intersection of education and sustainability is creating pathways for impact. Please welcome Ms. Neha Raghav. Welcome to the podium. Next, may I please call Mr. Pratyush Panda, CEO of OneStage. He brings a wealth of experience in shaping learning solutions that prepare students for real-world challenges. Welcome to the podium, Pratyush. You all just had tea. Come on, you can do better. Next, I'd like to call upon Dr. Rani Burchmore, Regional Leader for AWS Restart Program at APCJ, whose innovative programs are empowering the youth with cloud skills and career readiness. If she's going to share even 1% of what she told me yesterday, I can promise you this panel is going to be fantastic. All right, let's see how we can turn students into skilled professionals with the power of internships and learning pathways. And in that same journey, who knows, maybe some of us could learn a thing or two about brushing up our own skills along the way. So over to you, Mr. Abraham.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And I think I can't match her energy, but I'll try. Hope you guys had good sessions yesterday and today. And we've been talking and deliberating a lot about what skilling means and how the ecosystem can come together to help people. Today, the topic is a mouthful, but I'm going to keep it as internship and apprenticeship as pathways to career progressions, right? So this is what we wanted to debate about. And when I saw this panel, great balance. I have somebody from the corporate sector, I have somebody from the development sector, and I have somebody who was corporate sector, now has gone into helping philanthropies work better. So what a great panel to have to talk about this. So I hope you are all familiar with the alphabets in the apprenticeship world, right? Do you have guys heard of NAPS? NAPS? NATS? Have you heard of the PM internship scheme? Great. So that's a great way to start. And throwing some statistics around, the NAPS scheme caters to about 33 lakh apprentices every, in the time it was started in 2016. And the very contrasting factor of NAPS is also, can you guess the amount of women who take apprenticeship out of the 33 lakhs? How many? Yeah? Anybody else? Okay, the number is closer to 5.5 lakhs, right? So that's the amount of participation that apprenticeship has from women. Is it a question of are they not enough? Are they not motivated enough to take this up, or do they not see this as an opportunity as a career path? So that's one, right? And again, another number is that the inclusion of persons with disabilities. While it can be argued that it's a very difficult place to work, in the 33 lakhs, there are about 58,000 odd people who are persons with disabilities who have been part of this apprenticeship scheme. we are a country of about 54% of our people being young, and about 62% between 19 and 59, which is your working age. Now, there is a ton of opportunities that needs to be created. And while we've heard that, the skills are developing, it's the now is today, the next is tomorrow, and things so on. So there is no gap between sitting down and learning a new skill, then the next set of skills need to happen for you to get employed. So that is what we are trying to see if we can get through to this panel. And first, I would like to go to the corporate and would like to ask Rani the first question here. Rani, you've been working with AWS and you've been doing a ton of programs in the internship space. How do you see the gap between education and the industry? And also, what has been your insights into how this whole internship space is changing or evolving? Can you throw some light on that?
Thanks for having me here today. Excellent question, right? AWS recently did a study by country in Asia Pacific, and the study showed that employers are finding it difficult to hire talent, but specific talent around cloud skills and tech skills. But at the same time, I hear through my programs that there's lots and lots of students who have got the basic skills, who are finding it hard to get jobs. So there's always a tension and conflict, and I don't think that is going to go away. But to answer your question about internships, I think it is about providing not just work experience, but also skilling, and I think that's a very important point. In the past, when we talk about internships, they come in, they do some role-based tasks, and they get proficient at it, and then they decide whether, the employer decides whether they will hire them. But I know there's lots of students here now, that has changed. It is no longer about the employer evaluating, but it's also the students evaluating. So I think internships are there for anybody to come into an organization and find out if this is what they want to do, and for an organization to decide whether the roles that they brought the interns are what the interns are skewed towards or have a preference towards. So the whole idea of internship is evolving as we see, right? It is not, in the days of apprenticeship, it was very straightforward. Somebody wanted to be a mechanic, they would go and under the guidance of a master, learn the mechanics of being a mechanic. Internships are much more skewed towards innovation, creation, culture, adapting, and having a career pathway from where you start. So I think internships are evolving. What is also evolving as tech roles, specifically talking about tech roles, you are able to do these tech roles from many locations. That wasn't in the past. So I think some of the advances we are seeing also is if tech can be done, if roles can be done remotely, then the internship should also be able to be done remotely. So there is a huge evolution that I'm seeing in that component. If I might take one moment to explain, AWS Restart, which is a program that has been coined specifically for this, but it's not called an internship. So 7 years ago, the program was created when AWS customers and partners were saying they couldn't find talent. So we decided, we've got talent coming from the universities, we have talent upskilling in the workforce. There's a huge talent pool that is not in these two, so we decided to bring net new talent. And as a result, the program was created to facilitate unemployed and underemployed individuals to come into cloud. And it has evolved a lot over the last 6 years. Structured program, but that structure could be called internships because it has live practice, real life scenarios. So I think there are many different programs that exist there that could also compete with internships.
Great. I think, what would be the kind of numbers you're looking at? Because you work across the globe.
Yeah. So we introduced this program in Asia Pacific 3 years ago. And as of last month, we would have skilled 22,000 graduates. And the number doesn't seem like a very big number when we talk about training, but this is a workplace skilling component. And each student goes through 450 hours of skilling bootcamp, and they have to also do employability skills and soft skills and real-life lab work for them to graduate. So many people have come into the program, but we have been able to skill about 20,000+.
Great. Those are great numbers, right? You're looking at cloud and future technologies. So I have Neha with me. Neha, you're with WWF. And can you tell me how your journey has been in, say, this whole internship place? And also, as an environment organization, you're seeing shifts in how jobs are being created and green jobs becoming one of those key areas. So, new area, people don't have too much information. So, how are you using this as an opportunity to get people into the workforce?
Thank you, Santosh, for the question. And a few things before I answer that question. One, I'd really like to compliment Dr. Reddy, SRF Foundation, EduBridge, Capgemini, and of course, TIS for putting together this beautiful conference. And I would also take this opportunity to recognize the energy infused by the master of ceremony today. Sitting right over there, I was feeling so excited by the way she was kind of conducting the whole audience. And yeah, that itself is a skill, I think so most young people need. I think so it has already been said in the panel discussion before this. Communication is one of the most important skills. And when we bring young people into a work environment, it cannot be a specific skill. It cannot be all technical focused. In my experience, when they are, fresh graduates brought into a work environment, they get an opportunity to develop a lot more holistically than what they do when they are in the colleges. They encounter challenges, they learn problem solving, they learn to communicate. They also learn a lot of project management, a lot of challenges are thrown at them. Being from the development sector, countering these challenges are everyday business. And they get a taste of all of that. Internship is a very serious business for us. We make sure that when a young person joins us, goes back enriched with skills to counter the real world when they actually enter the workforce. So internship definitely has to be designed, structured. It should not be something which just happens by chance. You are reached out by a young person and he wants to, just understand how your organization works and just wants to have a brief stint with you. So it's a very serious business for us. We interview lots of candidates, find people with the right attitude. Aptitude definitely, it gets built over time. And it's a very planned thing, If we have time, space, and bandwidth to train this young person to get into the real work environment, we take up that challenge. Of course, we have our limitations to cater to the numbers, the kind of numbers that Rani does. But what we also do along with internships is create tons of volunteering opportunities. Many a times, and we kind of fail to acknowledge that volunteering opportunities can give you same kind of exposure. And it will also, an environment again, and nature is a field that, if it touches you once, it's with you for the rest of your life. I think so most of you will agree. So we have had young people volunteering with us, joining us as intern. This is what their journey has been like. They joined us as interns, became consultants, took up projects, and then they are full-time staff with us. So that's the kind of journey that we have to look at for any young person who is willing to work in the space, in the industry with you. I think so it's extremely important that we track their entire journey, have it mapped out. It may still kind of take a different path and course, but when they are beginning at that point, their journeys should be charted. They should know what they should be looking up to, what kind of development, what are the opportunities that they have. It has to be done very deliberately and in a conscious manner. So that's what we kind of do. I'd like to share one example with you. There was a group of college students who joined us for a project on setting up camera traps in a reserve forest. And this is so exciting, and I know that 5 of those interns who joined us for this particular project continued their journey. They went ahead, did their masters in environmental sciences, and then they came back. So this is how internship and volunteering can actually set you on a path, chart your whole professional journey going forward. So, of course, I'm extremely passionate about nature and environment. So, I think so it's important that we put more and more people onto this path. When it comes to employment and green jobs, I don't isolate green with jobs. I think so every job needs greening. Whether you're an architect, you can be a green architect. Whether you're a journalist, you can definitely be a nature journalist. So I think so we should now start looking at every job with the lens of nature and environment. So that's something to kind of conclude my answer.
Great. I think that's a good understanding of how people take up and find a passion after an internship. A segue into my next question. There was a survey done by a couple of folks, and they said 60% of all the college students that they had interviewed said that they would like to do an internship. But unfortunately, they felt that only 25% of them were able to get internships. And also we see that the numbers of, so let's say there are about 203 lakh companies that are registered on the apprenticeship portal. And they open out opportunities. And about 47,000 have been active because some of them have not been able to get folks, and then they've dropped out. So my question to you, Mr. Pratyush, you've traversed both the corporate world and now in the philanthropy space. What is the role of educational institutions and also other organizations to ensure that there is awareness, or what is that role to improve these numbers of people either getting accepted or taking up internships as an opportunity?
Hello. Thank you for that question. Before I answer your question, let me give you some data for the sector. So I got fascinated by a JNU PhD scholar who completed his PhD in 2011-12, which says in India by 2025, means by next year, 25 crores unemployed youth will be there. Those will be 12th, pass, fail and below. So it is educated, uneducated, youth, and they are also unemployed. And he concluded that might create a big, huge unrestlessness in our country in different shape and size, which we could see today. That motivated me to go further deep dive on that. And I completed my PhD on climate change and public policy in India. And one of the parameters was this. So I must tell you one findings of my thesis is, by 2040, 40 crores unemployed youth will be in India if not proper care has been taken by this through public policy. And more interestingly, these 40 crores will be highly educated one. Situation could be more alarming because until 25 they were uneducated and unemployed. Now they will be educated and unemployed. Probably all those things might have led to Prime Minister's apprentice scheme, which was initiated in India. Top 5% companies are participating in that. By the way, how many of you are here between age 21 and 24? If you can raise your hands. 21 to 24. roughly maybe 20% kind of thing, 15, 20%. And this is specially for that. Coming to the role that education institution, the civil society, corporate can play on these things is, education institution, why this apprenticeship program or internship programs are being designed now. We have seen those were today of like 40 plus kind of age group, the kind of education we have gone through, there are a bit of vocational training was inbuilt into all those processes by virtue of we are coming, I came from a pure government school from a village background of Orissa, pretty interior space. So for us, every day it's like a vocational was inbuilt. I have to go through bicycle to 5 kilometers or come back twice to the school. And on the way to explore a lot of other things. You have to write down your own notebooks. Going tuition, coaching was never thought of. In anyone from our government school used to go to coachings, it is understood that ye bachcha thoda weak hai. We came from those backgrounds. Now, these days it's just a reverse kind of things. So today's education is more has gone theoretical. A second space to our new age Gen Z kind of students, for them, getting closer to vocational internship is, there is hardly any space left by the parents, by the school colleges, by the education institution, or even by the larger society and government. There is hardly any space for them. So there, education institution can play a role by creating these kind of activities within the school where people start learning even during, new age NEP says standard 6 onwards can start play. I'll give you one more example. Two of the friends from Europe, they came back to India, started PWD schools, and they left Europe after working 14 years and started their own school in close to my home place in Orissa. So they were teaching geometry to the student while brickwork was going on. The very next day, a local journal made a big news. Dr. Sibais is making child labor of this student. So imagine if you student going through internship, and even if government teacher cannot dictate, can request the student to do sweeping in the classroom. Forget about rest. Again, those kind. So we are seeing our student different way. That is one reason why the internship is going away from the present student. Coming to civil society organizations, I must tell, this PM internship program will be such a big one. I think even 5 to 6 lakh NGO need to work for next 5 years around this to help corporate or government to get it realized. There is enough space on those lines. So we all has to show agility on those lines. Design, screen, create these students readily available for the corporate to get those sponsorships. Else, there might be money, there might be student, nobody will there to bridge the gap. That gap can be easily be bridged by civil society. Coming to corporate, government has given a list of 500 who are supposed to do. Good thing is, there are corporate, those are below 500 list also, are now jumping into this space for internships. So internships is mandatory, has to be done. It was there earlier, and now it is more formalized through government, and it will have a long way to go in India. Back to you.
Great, yeah. I think the latest numbers about there are 125,000 openings, and I think there are about 625,000.
They've opened for 5 days from 21st of this month to 25th for 1.25 lakh students. Number of applications reached 6.84 as on in 5 days time. In 5 days time.
Right. So that brings us to another problem. Right? How do you do internship at scale? Right. You cannot. So let's say, for example, even if you have to realize the dream, top 500 companies, each of them have to take 4,000 people every year for 5 years to be able to complete that entire internship, which, very strict guidelines saying you have to stay for a year. The training component cannot be more than 6 months of the total internship program. So again, coming back to Rani, so one of the things that we see is this scaling. Any of you can answer. How do you see the scaling happening? Because let's say, for example, I might be wrong on this. So if I'm a IT company that is very strict on my internal policies of security, device, and I have like 2,000 students coming every year to do internships. How do I do that? How do you get that? How do I cross that line? That's one of these questions. I think there is a question: are we putting the cart before the horse? That kind of questions. But I know there are answers, but I'd like to hear some of the things that you guys are doing to do. Yeah, any one of you can answer. Yeah.
Just to answer in one line, maybe India with 140 crores, you are right. Anything and everything has to be done in a scale, otherwise it has no value. I was just talking to our friend, your island of prosperity will never survive in the ocean of poverty. So if anything which is not scalable, I request everyone, academics, NGOs, corporate, don't spend time, energy, money there. It will scale because government is directly being the backbone for this project. Now they have started with few cities, and it has to go to all states, and especially to tier 3 kind of township and rural areas. Third, if you see last 20-25 years, there enough new industry has came up. Earlier in our childhood, we used to see 3 names, Tata, Birla, Dalmia. Now people can talk about at least 300 names, and excluding startups. So there is no dearth how to get it done. Only thing is to, again, previous session we heard about the collaboration and how we can do in a team efforts. I think challenges will be there, how we join hand between the civil society, the corporates and the government to get it realized in that 12 months time, humanly possible.
I can talk about an experience, a recent experience. So we have students from, I'll just talk about in 18 countries in Asia. So we have students, and during the last couple of years where there has been an assault in all of the IT companies with layoffs and redundancies and all kinds of madness. So one of the things we found that if we couldn't give, because the program's outcome, program AWS Restart's outcome is to actually place students, right? And there was a challenge. So this challenge allowed us to evaluate how do we provide at scale an equivalent of an internship, but virtually. And so this experiment involved 11 countries, and it was orchestrated by several organizations that we collaborated with. So the students who completed the Restart program were then put through an 8-week virtual internship. So we had to build it, right? At first go, we did it for about 100 students. And what we realized is for an internship to work, you need to have the candidates. You need to have employers who are willing to put their students through, and an organization that can manage a capstone project with them, because when you're thinking at scale, you need a leveling field, a project that brings everybody together. And whether it is in green energy, whether it's for the gig economy, whatever, right? So we brought that together and we put a pilot in place. And I'm very happy to say the result of the pilot then led to, in less than 6 months, to run internships for 1,800 candidates. And what that actually meant is, I think Girish mentioned this in his panel, let those organizations use what they specialize at and they're good at, bring them together for a solution. So we had content, we had the ability to build a very fast platform to manage these students across countries. We needed to think about language, the different languages, and I'm talking completely different languages from 18 countries. How do we help them level before they go into an internship? Who is going to build that employer-driven capstone projects that could make sense for many different kinds of employers, and also the vertical experience that Neha talked about. Because when you are talking about capstone project and scenarios to give people real-life experience, they are mostly entrenched in vertical needs, right? So it was a green energy project. There was a climate action project. There was an AI project. So those projects and capstones were then briefed to the employers who wanted to participate. And we did it. And I think at the very beginning, we had a lot of learnings. And very quickly getting that feedback loop to ensure that we are twigging it as we go. As of 2 nights ago, that number had gone up to 2,800 virtual internships. Now, that's not the important part, to be honest. It's important, but the outcome is out of that 2,500+ people, 1,500 of them got gainful employment following the internship from various people. So some of the employers who are on the internship program actually hired the students, and those who were not able to hire, we gave them a resume that was so highly built to build their portfolio of what they could do, and they got jobs. So I think scaling is super important to be able to get to the areas that we normally would not get to for internship projects.
Just to add to that, I think so I would really be concerned about the quality of internships that can be offered to these children, who join us as interns. So to be able to engage youth who do not have the ability and skills to work in that setting, it's a huge challenge. It has to be structured very well. Something that, we are beginning to experiment with, and I'd love to share that with all of you, is pre-internship skilling program. And I'll share one example with you, something that we will now be, initiating, is a naturalist training program where we are identifying youth, who are working in the landscapes where there's a lot of tourism, there are the national parks and the reserve forests. We are identifying youth who have had some exposure to this domain. We identify them. For 2 weeks, we do intensive training for them to be naturalists, build their capacity, provide them with resources, and then put them, partner with community-based organization to create these internship opportunities for them, and also track their journey over the next 2 years to see that following this internship, whether they have built the skills to be a part of the ecotourism industry or not. So I think so it's extremely, paramount that we track their journeys right from, this pre-internship skilling program till they find employment and they are able to earn their livelihoods through that. So I think so we need to look at it from end to end rather than just focusing on that 6 months of internship that we have to offer. Thank you.
Great. I think, a LinkedIn survey that was done in 2003 with corporate said 70% of them recognized, internship as a very critical thing to have. And I think about 50% of them were being absorbed by the company itself. So I think it's creating that workforce that they require, the NAV and the just-in-time hire. So you brought a very important factor to the conversation. How do you measure this? How do you measure the outcome? How do you measure the success? We do internships at scale. Now, how do you tell that somebody's done something with the internship? So that's, I think, a challenge to a lot of the skilling organizations as well, because when it shows outcome, then what do we show as, what is the show and tell when it comes to internship? So any thoughts on that?
2-3 things very clearly. The present generation Gen Z, again, previous session we were discussing about CTC part. So immediately post 1 year of internships, the placement salary, annual salary will be for sure in their mind, will be first parameter in their mind. Having said that, that should not be the only one thing. It is also about the the psychosomatic support that has been given, The personality doesn't build up. The leadership, team building quality has been built up in those interns. Will take these interns on long run. Otherwise, I always say to new generation boys and girls, don't look at your salary in the first month or first year. Try to envisage how much you'll be drawing 20 years down the line. Even if you are highly materialistic, imagine 20 years down the line. Even if you only say with Than Gopal kind of thing, try to see 20 years down the line. If you see only first year, you may be cheated by your employer. But if you want to go on those lines, you have to learn a lot while working today to achieve that goal. So that should be in mind first always. Other thing is, I'll give you one example. I was for 12 donkey years, I was with SEC. 1958, SMTI came out. It is called Suman Mulgaonkar Technical Institute in Kaimur. Imagine a vocational internship training center. The center is the border of the cement factory on the boundary. It's a 5 acres of land. They do select only student with ITI pass out, same 20 to 25 age group max. And there's a pan-India selection. If you get select, everything is free inside. So they, from 61 onwards, they take care of English, your behavioral sciences of each candidate, your mathematics up to the level of calculus derivatives, and in 1 year they complete everything. And for them, the moment there is a gate in the boundary, the moment the boundary is open, entire factory is the lab. When IT student doesn't get any job, they apply there. After 1 year, now they are drawing 60 to 70,000 every year. If you go with SMTS certificate today, anywhere, cement sector, nobody will take your interview. They'll ask, salary kya loge bolo? That's per 70 years. So, and you have to build up all those along with your cities part.
Can I add just to that? So before we started this internship program, we actually asked our graduates, most of them from the ages of 18 to 30, what does success look like for you when you finish this internship? It was very interesting because a lot of the information was not, I'm old, so it's not what I would have said, right? It's a new generation. So firstly, it started with, I need to get a job, paying job. Then it was, I need flexible work environment, right? I need to be my authentic self, a company that gives me that. So there was 100 or so free flow text that came from the survey. But it was very interesting. There was one student who responded to change my livelihood from where I am to the next level. But then we deduced all of those questions, and what they were prioritizing was getting a job. For them, it's that first step inside. So sometimes it gets lost in translation, and maybe we can bring that translation back with the students here. But yeah, it's very varied, right? As an employer, for me, success is that I find the right people with the right culture and the right innovation and the right skills and the lifelong learning methodology so they can be adaptable. That's important as an employer, right? And in AWS, that doesn't mean a cloud associate, an engineer. It also means a business analyst, a sales or marketing person, whoever, right? But for the students, it's very different.
Absolutely. I think there are different matrices that can be used, and I think it's about skill acquisition or salaries or opportunities that are coming new. So I think that is what we wanted to come. So we are talking about our perspective of what internship is. So I know you're from TIS and other colleges. You already have internship built into your program. Can one of you share your experience of what it was and how it felt doing the internship? Did it really change something in you? Anybody from the audience, any of the students? Yeah, come on. Public speaking is one of those things that you learn. And, don't be shy. None of you had any internship opportunities? No? Please go ahead. I think, can you pass a mic there? No, you can say if it is contrary to whatever we have spoken and such, that you're glorifying this, nothing like this happens. That's fine.
Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to share my internship experience with Technoserve India. It was Sustainable Gwar Initiative project in Bikaner, Rajasthan, and I was a part of impact assessment study. And this was very paid internship, and all the expenses were covered. And um, that's the reason I chose that internship, to be very frank. Then, because that was the first factor. Because I have to stay in Bikaner, Rajasthan, I have to manage my expenses. So that was the first factor. Then, for the exposure, I would say I got exposure to from like initiate how to ideation of the project happens, and then what implementation, what is the agency that works on the ground, and how we take care of participatory approach, means views from the farmers we take into our action and reform our program. That all was exposed to me, and everything was told at the till the level of data analysis. Means after collection of data, how we analyze and how we recommend the practice, everything was told to me. That experience was very nice. Lastly, I want to ask a question to panel. My internship was very good, but when I compare with my friends, other fellow mates, so few did not have exposure to paid internship. So first, there was no motivation. Second thing, when it is not paid internship, sometimes it happened that companies are also not looking at employee, like they are just giving some work, make this report and something, and not that skills that which I had a exposure in my internship company. So at your company, when we are talking about a PM internship program and skilling at this level, so how do you think you would be able to manage this much crowd with the quality of internship? Because at the end of the day, I am not just politicizing this, but it might be that unemployment rate is very high and somewhere engage in the youth, so why not to internship? And that is also with very small amount. Thank you. So what, and I would also like to know, since you are a very big company giant, so what steps you would take to ensure this? Thank you.
Yeah, I think, anyway, the PM internship is a paid one, so you don't have to worry. The government is going to shell out money. It's like at least 5,000 rupees a month. So I think one of the challenges that it's been is unpaid versus paid internship. It's always been there. I think it's not going to go away. But, you know, the flip side is, again, you know, at least in a country like India, for us, internship is not means to get a job, but it's never a opportunity to pursue a passion. In most other places, you know, are you doing your master's, right, here? If you had an internship experience while doing your undergrad, and you are passionate about environment, would you have done this, or would I have done an environmental science course? The question is that, right? So I'm not belittling your question. The idea is that internship as a pathway to jobs, at a time when you are looking at pursuing a passion, that becomes much more meaningful, and the motivation is not money there. The motivation is to learn. So that is one set of what we call as intrinsically motivated kind of people that pick up internships that relate to them, what they're doing in their lives, right? But completely hear you. You have any rebuttal on this?
Yeah, just one point I'd like to make here. I think so you've summed it up very well, the entire experience, and hence I mentioned the quality of internships would be my big concern when we are talking about scale. But I think so it's also about how we perceive internships to be, right? Whether you are looking at internship opportunity as, you know, as maybe an opportunity where you can get first-hand experience of what this, you know, work, the industry looks like. That could be, you know, one of the goals with which you can enter the internship space. I'll give you one quick example. So my son is a journalist. He went to a college in Bangalore, and they would not call the students, you know, as students. They said these are trainee journalists. They made them work exactly like interns, and we paid a fee for that. So I think so that's how I think so the perception needs to change how you are looking at those 6 months of, your exposure to the real world and the work atmosphere. So with that, I think so it will be a lot easier, but I also understand you had the very right goal in mind at that point of time when you got into that internship. You needed to earn some money, and definitely a lot of children will look at paid internships. But I think so your focus should be on identifying the right organization to intern with and the right kind of exposure that you will get working at that organization, so that following that internship, where you are going to land, should be the larger focus. So those 6 months, whether paid, unpaid, or whatever, will be all worth it.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
In your son case, you paid or they paid?
I paid. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Seriously, I have a concern here. When 5 crores people in India go to their bed empty stomach, imagine how many of them will be having money to go for such paid internships. Does it mean that we should bar them? Coming back to his questions on, heads up and more power to you what you did. And Technosub is a very structured organization. I know them pretty well. You must have learned. I'll give you an example of a boy, Niranjan, who came from XMB for internship with me when I was heading Sustainability and CSR at ACC. I'm talking about 2018-19. He went back after 35 days. And he called me, sir, can I join you for 5-7 days during Dasara ka chutti hai hamare yahan? Can I come? And I'm like, 7 दिन में क्या करोगे? Sir, I'll work 24/7. I only arranged his stay food at a plant at Chhattisgarh called Jamul near Bhilai steel plant. 7 days, he worked like 12 to 14 hours. उसको क्या सीखना था? Query to customer. How can I put sustainability, corporate sustainability across each value chain? Today he is EY senior consultant sitting in Gurgaon, drawing as good as my salary in 5 years experience. And he always says कि sir ये मेरे को काम आया था. Seriously, and we all need to, and especially those who are in corporate, we all need to encourage those pre-passes to people, those who are, theoretically sound and also passionate for the same subject like you are talking.
Yeah,
sorry,
absolutely. So thank you. I think we need to conclude here because time's up the last 3 minutes. So I think in summary, what we can look at it is there are 4 lenses of looking at this whole internship and apprenticeship scheme. I think the first lens is from the learner. What do you want to learn? Where do you want to go? The second is from the employer. What are you looking for? What are the skills that you need and how can you hone them, right? And third is for the society to say, what are the opportunities that I provide for this to happen? And fourth is the government. There's a clear mandate of how I want to work with young people. So I think more power to you and all the interns. Thank you so much for patient listening. Thanks once again, EduBridge, SRF, and Capgemini for making this happen.
A big thank you to our panelists for such a thoughtful and impactful discussion. Now, to felicitate our panelists, may I please call upon Mr. Puneet Kamra to come on stage. From internships to learning pathways, you've shown us how truly, how we can empower the next generation to transition. Yes, Mr. Santosh Abraham, everybody. Thank you for joining our panel. Ms. Neha Raghav, thank you for joining our panel. Mr. Pratyush Panda, thank you so much for joining our panel. And Ms. Rani Burchmore, thank you for joining our panel. Thank you. May we please have a group picture in the front? Thank you.